Hey everyone, it's Kate, and today I'm going to cut out the camber dress for Rachel out of our pinstripe wool flannel. But before I start cutting out, I'm going to do a sway back adjustment. It's on page 150 of the Palmer Pletch Complete Guide to Fitting, my favorite book. And according to the book, you need to do a sway back adjustment if you have a sway back, a flat derriere, or an erect back, which means that almost everybody needs to do a sway back adjustment. And when Rachel was trying on the tissue, I could tell she needed about a 1/2 inch sway back adjustment. And let me show you how to do that. So this is the back piece of the dress. This is the center back that says place on fold. And this is the side seam. And I have drawn a line perpendicular to the center back right about where the waistline is, because that's where the extra fabric is collecting. And you can fold up the line, but I prefer to cut along the line. So I'm gonna stand up here so that I have some leverage. And oh, I forgot to mention that I have pinned the tissue to this gridded cardboard and made sure that all the grain line and the center back and all the lines are lined up with lines on the grid, because that just makes it easier to be accurate. So I have sliced along the line that I drew to, but not through the seam line. And I'm going to move these 2 pins up here so that I can swing the bottom half of the pattern piece up toward the top half, and I'm overlapping by about 1/2 inch at the center back. And then I'm going to repin, and I've faded to 0 at the side seam. So the side seam has not been affected by this adjustment. I'm just pulling in a little bit at the center back, which gets rid of the fabric that was pooling in the center of Rachel's back. But now, so this is supposed to be placed on the fold, so it's supposed to be straight, and hopefully you can see that it's swinging off that way. So what I'm going to do is swing the bottom half back so it's lined up with the same line as the top half, and pin that in place. And hopefully you can see that now the center back is kind of bowed a little bit, and that's okay. I could fill this in with tissue so that it's nice and straight, but because I'm lazy and I'm me, I am just gonna know that I did this, and when I line this up on the fold, I will just line up at the top and the bottom of the center back. And so now I'm ready to cut out, and I'm going to move my cardboard and reveal the fabric that I've started getting ready for cutting out. So this wool flannel in a pinstripe is gorgeous, but it also has a nap. So that means that if a piece is right side up, it's going to be a slightly different color than if it's upside down. I don't know if I can, if you think about corduroy, it's got the same kind of properties as corduroy. So you have to make sure that all of your pattern pieces are facing in the same direction. And like everything I cut out, I'm cutting this out without folding the fabric. It's just, I find it much less stressful to cut out on the flat than folding the fabric, because I just never know what's going on with that fabric underneath. So I'm using the trace and flip method to cut this out, and this is the front pattern piece, and this is the center front that's supposed to be on the fold, and I had it over on this side first, and I traced around it, and I did a tailor's tack right at the tip of the dart, and I marked all of the notches, and then I flipped it along the pinstripe and pinned it in place, and now I can just cut out the whole pattern piece in one go. It would be kind of boring to show you that whole thing, so I've also done the same thing with the yoke piece, and so I've traced it on one half and then flipped it and have the pattern piece right there. Can you see this okay, Rachel? Okay, good. So Rachael is not only my model for wearing this dress, but she's also my film crew. I'm going to stand up. And sometimes I cut out with a rotary cutter and sometimes with scissors, but I love these. I love the color of these scissors, and these nice Kai shears make cutting things out so easy because they're such good scissors. So you can see that I use the tissue on one half and then my traced area on the other half. And for this fabric, I used just some tailor's chalk, or it's tailor's wax really, which we just give it away. So if you ever want some, just send us an email or come into the store and we'll give you some, because it's really nice for dark fabrics like this. It'll just iron away because it's wax. And then, so for all the notches, I just do a small snip. And the Merchant and Mills patterns are funny because they do a little snip at the seam allowance, which is actually kind of helpful because then you know where to start sewing. And when I do my snips, I don't put the scissors like all the way and hope that I stop in time. I just use the tip of my scissors, and I am going to mark the center of the yoke because I will probably need that when I line it up with the back piece and when I do the neckline. But hopefully you can see that that's how you cut things out when you're doing the trace and flip method. So the other method that you have to use should I move this over a little bit? When you don't like to fold your fabric like me, the sleeves are not symmetrical. So you need a right sleeve and a left sleeve. So I cut one out with the pattern piece upside down, and then I'm going to cut the second one out with the pattern piece right side up. And the neck binding, oh, I know, I'm going to show you another little trick. So the sleeve, this is the grain line for the sleeve, and it is not really perpendicular to any of the outside lines. So what I do is I fold it along the grain line, and then if it has these great vertical stripes, I can just line it up with a vertical stripe. But if it doesn't, I can then line it up with the selvage. So that's how I made sure that this was on grain. And I did the same thing here with the neck bias binding. It has a 45-degree angle drawn in the middle, so I folded along that and made sure that it was right on a pinstripe. When I cut out the neck bias binding, I'm going to cut it a little bit long, because longer than it asked for, because I'm afraid that this is the neckline's going to be too tight. But if it is, I'm going to cut a little extra so that I have some wiggle room to make the neckline a little bigger. So I will finish cutting this out and meet you back here on Saturday morning at 9:30 Mountain Time, and I'll start sewing the camber dress and give you some great tips and tricks for sewing with wool. We are still participating in the shop hop, so if you live in Montana or Idaho and want to check out 6 really fun shops, you can start hopping here, and we'll tell you all about it when you come in the store. So thanks for watching, and I will see you on Saturday at 9:30. Bye for now.